Nice. Cool.
Share our screen.
I hope you guys can drive around all the way down just for me.
Oh, no, we come every Wednesday this
Okay.
month, so, and they record it, so other people can look at it at any time.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Okay. Stand over there so I can hit the buttons. You got it.
No, I can. So if you're already doing a newsletter, you probably know all this. Mailchimp, it's a free emailing tool up to a certain amount of people. So our database has grown, and so I just use 2 different email accounts, and I just share the newsletter back and forth. And what I really like is that it manages your list for you. So you can obviously add all of your new people every month, but people who have unsubscribed are automatically taken out of the list. You don't need to track them anywhere. You might want to for like other communications that you're doing, but I sort of separate the newsletter versus like our clients event invites as like 2 kind of separate groups. And unless they have unsubscribed from like invites, then I'm not just taking them off that list because they've unsubscribed from the newsletter. So it tracks what people click on and our performance of how many opens we get and that sort of thing.
How long have you guys been using
Since I started about a year ago.
that? Okay, so you've seen like that you can see what they're clicking on.
Oh, yeah.
And have like a better sense of.
Yeah, I
what's
run,
popular and what's not.
I run analytics for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just showing people that these are sort of the subsections that we use throughout it. So campaigns, templates, lists, and reports. So the lists are your contacts, who you're sending that, who is receiving your newsletter. We use a template and then we just update that every month. So for the content, like I don't like start a campaign and then build the content. I usually go the other way. Like I build the content in a template and then apply that template to the campaign. And then reports obviously after the fact to check on what's happening. So this is just adding your recipients to a list. And so we have a small team. And so now what I've done right here, my list name is newsletter 2016. Now what I've done is like divide them out based on who their agent is, so that if anyone were to leave our team, then I could just like remove that list from Mailchimp and then no longer send to it. You can only have so many lists. So I think like a couple of our agents are combined, but at least I have a general sense of like where I would find, you know, all of Corey's contacts, for example. You can upload your contacts either from a CSV file, or you can manually write them in. If you're only doing like, you know, this month's handful of new clients, then you can just like type them in. And then where I create the content is in templates. So we've been doing newsletters since before I started with the team, and I've been on the team for 6 years now. So I just always like replicate the last month and then like go from there. So we use sort of a template. It looks like us. I always, whenever I'm talking about email marketing or marketing in general for a real estate team, I try to remember some of the things that I learned in my previous job about marketing, which is consistency and consistency. Well, yeah, rule of 7 and consistency, and there's another C word in there. What?
Clarity?
No, but I'll think of it in a minute. Constant. So, right, like consistent in terms of branding, right? I want anyone who opens an email from Team Lucky Duck to know it's Team Lucky Duck right away. Like I want them to be able to look at the template of the newsletter or the template of the invite and be able to see like, oh, that's our graphic identity. you'll know that, like, you might not notice in this class, but if you like come to a few of our classes, you will notice we always use the same fonts for everything, unless we're doing like a brand change, and then, you know, like it might be time to do that. But the idea is that people will know it's you right away. It's not like, oh, it's a new event, we should have a new like look to it. It should, you know, be in line with what your other events look like. So that, and then constant, that's the rule of 7. So the idea is that you have to contact somebody 7 times before they take action on an item. And that is like a very famous marketing tactic. So when last week we talked about our 36 touch, you know, sometimes it feels like there's something every week for people going out from Team Lucky Duck. And the idea is that we're reaching them a few different times, a few different ways, different mediums about the same thing, because we want them to see it that 7 times so that then they can take action.
With the newsletter, we use that to like recap. We're heavy on events, so like do the reminder about the upcoming event, to invite them to the event, and to do a recap of it. So like they're going to see something several times too. So if they don't opt in this year, now they've seen it 3 times in the newsletter. In addition, different ways. It's not the same thing each month, but different parts of that event. That hopefully in the future that they'll opt in. And we do see every year that like we get more people that are opting into our events. So you started doing that, and I thought it was really like a good thing of being like, hey, we have an event that's coming up. Hey, here's the invite for the event. Hey, here's the photos and everything that we did and how fun it was. So that like people who maybe weren't sure if they were going to come can see what it was like and hopefully opt in for the next time.
Yeah. So one event like hits the newsletter for sure at a minimum 3 times: the save the date, the invite, and then the recap. And that's in addition to any like specific marketing around that event. So you
You're
can
gonna have a design that you go with, or do you switch it every?
So we've been going with a pretty consistent one for a while, but Sarah just told me she wants to switch it up. So I'm kind of doing that today, actually. It's kind of playing with it a little bit.
Cool. Yeah.
So we have found that if it's picture heavy, we get a lot more engagement, which you probably maybe know or have seen. Just like in social media, right? Like people want to see the photos, they're not like necessarily reading all the content. So Kelly created a design that has 5 stories.
If I have an example.
Like
Yeah.
this. And it's
This is
all
old.
photos, and then they can click on the photos to learn more about what it is.
Mhm.
And each month, sorry if I'm jumping ahead.
No,
but, like,
you're totally
Just sold is always on there.
Okay.
And those are all the people that closed the month before, and it's by far our most popular clicked on thing. People like to see what homes other people are buying, people like to see themselves.
People like to see their friends,
Yeah.
right? Like our database is past client sphere, and so like people might know each other, right? Like Carly sold a house last month from a friend from high school. Chances are there are other friends from high school who are getting this.
So we like
Newsletter.
strategically pick that cover photo.
Yeah.
I think that's not a good example. But like,
No,
if we have a photo with somebody and it's somebody that like
hits one of those like
something,
areas. Yeah.
So we'll put that as
Mhm,
a story. And then the top one is the event. So that was our date night event.
mhm.
And then we volunteer once a month. So like each month, those 3 stories happen. Something about an event, whatever we did for volunteering, and then just sold. And then so really it's coming up with 2 other things that we're gonna
Mhm.
So
chat about.
I see you have the read more option. I don't know how to do that. Like, does it bring you to a landing page? Is it?
So with our newsletter, we have a blog that is basically like a landing page for the newsletter, and it's hosted on WordPress. I could show it.
It costs $99 a year to have a WordPress blog.
Yes. But you'll see is,
We don't really market this
no,
anywhere else other than like it hosts all of our articles for.
Okay.
But the nice thing is like if anyone ever came across this, like it has the historical.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys
We've
have like
sold
some.
all of our volunteering for 6 years and so
Yeah.
on here. So like, it's kind of nice that way, you know,
Mhm.
everyone is there.
But it really works like a landing page for the newsletter, right? So like this month we wrote a story about Easter crafts. And so there was, you know, a picture and then a read more thing. And then here is where we wrote about like, hey, we got some ideas. Here's the link of how you can do them. And it's timely and kind of fun and plays to our sphere.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. When I remember when I started with Team Lucky Duck,
It's super spontaneous.
Carly was like, we have a blog that you'll be in charge of. And I just thought like, great, like I have to blog, like, so this post is always the same. Like it's always just sold with pictures. And we would love to help anybody who's looking to buy or sell.
Nice.
But then that just links to the newsletters story. I call them stories, but it's just like that
So
little
it's like just
section.
a little bit of front end work to set up the blog, but then like once it's there, it's just like a posting place for it.
Okay.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
really each month there's 2 stories that are
At the
sort of
most.
pre-planned,
Mhm.
like what we're doing. So like
Yeah.
next month is May, so maybe or we'll have red day. So like we don't
Yeah.
even we don't have to even think about what our volunteering will be, right?
Mhm.
And we also leverage like up top, that's when Zach and I went to one of the Keller Williams. I don't know if it's Mega Camp or Family Reunion, Festive Family Reunion.
Mhm. Yeah.
So like we take pictures. So I think the other thing, especially if you're doing it for an agent, is reminding them to take photos when they're out doing stuff, because the more visual that we can be, then the more stuff people click on and they're interested in seeing it. And I'm like, need to be reminded of that too. 'Cause, like,
Yeah.
Corey on our team does a great, I was just told today, like, he does a great job with social media and like this listing coming soon. And he just like, he thinks about it and he.
It's
like,
strategic about it.
Yeah, it's strategic about
Yeah.
it. And I said, well, like I said, you're gonna have more listings because like for the last 4 or 5 weeks, you've every week posted about some sort of listing that you have coming.
Mhm.
So. Yeah,
I
just,
think
like,
the other
thinking
thing
about
that people don't think of when they're the real estate agent is that people want to see them. So like you might have to remind Sarah,
Yep.
right? Like Zach is not as challenging to remind him that like, you know, he should be in front of the camera, but Carly is, right? Because that's not her natural state,
Yeah.
right? So like reminding them like, hey, you shouldn't take the photo. You should be in it with them. You should be the one. Yeah.
And then at an event, before everyone shows up, take a picture of the setup, or like we give away pies, like take some photos of the pies stacked up, because we can use those in other, you know, put it on Instagram, you can put it in your newsletter,
Mhm.
you know, so.
Okay.
Thinking about like when you show up to like events, like how can we use this to like get some more leverage out of it, whether it's an event or even like training that you have going on here, you know.
Mhm.
We typically do market updates like twice a year.
Yeah, maybe quarterly, but definitely not monthly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
that's
we
something
might,
we're doing monthly right now.
May, I might write one because like we've had a huge shift in interest rates and like we want to reassure people it's still a great time to buy. But I haven't done one since the first of the year.
we
So
used to
like,
do it, and then we realized, no.
Yeah, I've noticed.
And it takes the most amount of time to write about what's going on in the market. And then I would like open this up and people were clicking on all the other fun things, and the market update was like, clicked on, but not something people are interested in. And the more I thought about it, like we get one from our lender every Friday. And like, it's sort of interesting to me because I'm in the field, but like an everyday consumer, they want to know what their house is worth. So like the neighborhood updates might be helpful, but like the actual market updates, I think some people are, you know, it's a.
I feel like that is a like touch point for people who are in the process, right? And you're going to do that during your appointments, right? You're going to do it at your buyer appointments. You're going to do it at your listing appointments. Everybody else who's getting this newsletter is not necessarily in that point in their life, right? Like if you think of, you know, people buy and sell every 7 to 10 years, right? They're on year 4. They don't care really beyond like, you know, maybe a little bit of interest. They're not in that moment. But, you know, Easter crafts, to use that as an example, it's like, yeah, my kids don't have school on Friday. What are we going to do? Like, you know, okay, that is pertinent. Like, so we try to be sort of timely about and like things that we might be interested in because our business is Zach and Carly's sphere for the most part.
So other like topics that we've done that I think some people like 4th of July, where to go see fireworks in the fall, apple picking, or
Yeah, I
pumpkin
did like
patches,
all the places you can find Santa.
Yeah,
all of the holiday
totally.
markets.
Christmas lights.
Yeah.
The paint colors for the season, that is always popular.
Yeah.
They'll tell you what the
Yeah.
paint colors.
Or like decor trends that are going out of style. Like if we're gonna do decor, I usually try to do that because I feel like people are like, oh yeah, is that my house? That's like now out of style. And we just like a lot of these things, right? You're just finding something that somebody else has written that who is an expert, but then we're just always being very careful to include a citation and a link to their page.
Okay.
So that, you know, it's not that we're trying to steal their content. We're just like summarizing and pointing people to.
And they're not long. Like I say to myself, like if I click on this, I hate when you like click on a blog or a recipe and you have like, you know, a novel before you can get to the recipe. So like, you know, 2 paragraphs is fine. It doesn't have to be long. Like just show them, you know, the little bit that you want to show them, and then
Mhm.
the very basic.
yeah, kind of move on. It's something of value. It's not something that I expected to spend 30 minutes reading. It's just like a touch point, let me go through it, and then on to the next thing.
Okay.
Mhm. I was just gonna see what else lately we've talked about. We do buyer needs, which is, we started this maybe a couple years ago.
Coming or listings, and then I started coming soon. There was like a rule change, so we can't do those anymore. So we switched it to just buyer needs.
Yeah, we used to do both. Like these are our listings that are coming up and these are what our buyers are looking for. But I think it's a good reminder that we're in real estate without asking people directly, like, do you have somebody who's, you know, looking? And that's another story that like usually is there. So we have just sold, buyer needs, volunteering, and usually an event. And we actually got this idea from one of Carly's clients who was like, I follow this person's page on Facebook because they always post what their people are looking for. You know, it's a different realtor. Like she was our client, but was following someone else because of how they were posting. And so then we got that idea of like, okay, well, we can do that too. Like we have plenty of buyer needs.
Something else, like we've done this to everyone, even if they're not in Rochester or like your area. And at first I was like, well, no, you know, they don't want to know this, but then like my uncle and point is like, oh my gosh, you were so busy, or oh my gosh, it was so cool that you did this, or my girlfriend moved back from out east and she called me because she knew that I'm busy and I'm in real estate because I'm not great about like posting all about, I just post about my kids mainly on like social media platforms. So, but she got the newsletter, so she like knew that I was an experienced person. So I think like if anyone has limiting beliefs about who to send it to, I say send it to everyone and let them opt out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think is important about like coming soons or buyer needs, also just sold, is you are explaining to people that you are a full-time professional, busy real estate agent without having to say that, right? Like it speaks to your experience level. Also that like, you know, there's Cole with a client for just sold, like it's not just Carly. And so like when she went out on maternity leave, right, like there was an innate sort of like trust. And I think like having those like team groups, team photos, but then like them with clients too, like helps to show like we really are a team, and it's okay if like someone else shows you a house besides Carly or Zach for that matter. Like a lot of people call and think like Zach's gonna be their realtor, and you know, he's not. So yeah. Mhm.
I also think like a few different volunteering organizations or like categories. So like education is one, veterans is one, and we do like
Hunger.
hunger is one, and we pick organizations kind of looking at those. So we will list like similar organizations over and over. We also like put in there like if you know maybe one that's like
If you know,
would need our help, and we actually had one of Corey's clients reach out this year
mhm.
and say like, yeah, I know of one, and so we went and like volunteered there, which I think
Yeah, totally. We try to kind of stick to those themes. I mean, obviously, like we're going to do Red Day with the office. We almost always do like the bell ringing with the Salvation Army, but we try to, if there's, and the other piece of it is we try to like do it locally to our spots. Like you'll see volunteering with Ready Set Achieve, that's at the Lakeville Public Schools. I usually do something at my kids' school, which is right in like the area that we serve, so then like we can talk about that too. The open doors right in our backyard too. So that.
What else do you have questions about that you're?
Oh gosh. I mean, this is really good content.
Well, and that, like, we can shoot you the website. So,
Yeah, you
like,
can
that's
peruse
something
through.
too I do is like look at what other people are putting out, like what is helpful that are interesting. Like I sent Sandra stuff like this news article has like a lot of good ideas, like maybe we can look at some of these things.
Piggyback off it. Yeah.
The other thing that we do at the start of the year is we come up with, I'm still doing it, but did it for a while, all the subject lines for every single month for every newsletter.
And I like plan out the stories, right? So we have 5 stories every month. So like as part of our like 36 touch, so like I'm doing that monthly, you know, and then I'm breaking it down even a little bit deeper to the newsletter level. So like when I go, you know, like we're at April 13th, if I haven't touched the newsletter, or Cassandra is on our team too, she helps in the newsletter, she can just go into the newsletter plan for 2022 and she already knows like, and maybe there might not be like all 5 stories picked out, but she'll know, okay, I need 1 extra blog post, or, you know, oh, this is a good time to do a market update because we're going into the summer, you know, that sort of thing.
Or like when I forward ones that I see, like it does make sense to now, we can open up that plan and be like, okay, when can I put in this story? Like when the shorts on, then just put it there so that when I open it up in October and I don't know what I'm gonna write on. Oh yeah, I remember there was one.
Yeah.
I was gonna cover. And then it's really hard for us to come up with subject lines because I feel like when you say newsletter, it still spam, like spam was it, or just leave it.
It's weird. We've actually gotten better luck with having a
newsletter
title. Yeah. I don't know if that's just our audience, but
It's one of Zach's pet peeves for him. Yeah, Zach doesn't like the word newsletter in the subject. So we do all sorts of things. We try to like play off of the duck name, you know, we try to be like seasonal. And sometimes it's just like, you know, happy holidays, you know, that sort of thing. But we try to.
But I thought that was smart when you started doing that, because then like if it's super busy, you're doing something else. It's like, oh crap, I gotta think of 5 news articles. It's like, well, actually, let's pull this up. Here's the subject line and here's,
You know, 4 of the 5. Yeah.
And if they're just 2 paragraphs each, then I can knock that out and after you can take them too.
Yeah. Other thing with the blog is that every time I publish a story to the blog, it also goes on our business Facebook page. And then
Have it go on Twitter.
you can go, yeah, you can have it like go everywhere. You can also post your newsletter on Facebook, but I feel like for us, then these stories are going in the newsletter, but they're also being shown on Facebook kind of individually in posts too.
So we try and spread them out as we write them.
Yeah,
right. So it's not like bam, 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 5 new stories. Yeah.
Sometimes that happens, but like the
You can go
idea.
down to the client event. Isn't there a video? Show her, like, slideshow?
This one, I don't know.
Oh, but here's like an example.
Gallery.
Like a whole bunch, but put in
A ton of
a
pictures.
ton of photos. Which
Yeah.
then, like, if people have come, they can go and like. And this is also like, so here's Corey talking to a client, and one of us, like, we try to watch out for each other. So like, I think, I don't know who snapped that, but somebody snapped that photo, because it's like, oh, you're talking to a client, like, here's Jack talking to somebody, like, you know, trying to not just get the staged photos, but like, you know, snapping a few action shots too. There's one, I was just gonna try and cover that, like, you can do that, it has the capabilities
it like will rotate the pictures through. I can't remember the last year in review, it like just goes on the newsletter, which I could open up. We could do that.
Is that what we do?
Your review, we make like a slideshow.
I'm trying to make, like, I'm gonna write an article or about an event, like how much was paid out of this, you know? People like budget. We do the closing photos and then like scribbling our event photos, you know.
Wow, with the
There was
password.
one new article where we like had, maybe it was that one, but I think almost we did like a
Slideshow.
slideshow.
Mhm.
To the stories and then like we clicked on it and like scroll through the, which I thought was.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
yeah. I
Like
remember.
a lot of them have the same, right?
Yes, right.
It's not inspired, sold, so.
Maybe
Like, when
that's-
over, we went to that. So like, not really real estate, but like happened in the Twin cities, we all. went there, oh, yeah, there we go.
Oops.
So. So not like nothing against command, I just feel like Mailchimp gives us a little bit more flexibility. to do
Yeah.
Some of these types of things.
Mhm.
Command is good for a lot of things, not so much newsletters.
Yeah. That's sort of been our.
I agree.
stance so far.
Yeah. Mhm. So, yeah, you can put it in a slideshow, you can put it in a gallery, which is what like a bunch of photos are called. You can do music, yeah. And then obviously link back. I think that like read more thing is called an anchor.
Okay,
So like you just insert an anchor
okay.
into the text, but if you're like looking at it, or when I could actually get into Mailchimp, I could help you. If you want to just give me a call someday
Okay.
when you're working on it, I can help with that. But I'm almost positive that it's called an anchor.
Is it helpful?
Yeah, no, this has been really helpful.
Yeah, I got the guys to the photos.
They look so little. Like, look at Corey.
But like that stuff too, right? Like the stuff.
Yeah,
think, like,
these
Pictures
pictures.
like spin on this and then they just don't do anything. And so that's, I like to be like, it doesn't have to be a super long story.
Rocket
It can be
science.
short, it can be photo heavy, like.
Well, and you, I mean, a single agent, right? Like they maybe only have 2 stories just
Mhm.
sold and like something they did that month.
Yeah.
Even if it's like hanging up a sold sign, you know, like,
It doesn't.
right, like it doesn't need to be, 5 things that are all encompassing and everybody's gonna love.
Or start with 2 and grow to 5.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm not familiar with the rules against showing listings. and
If it's signed as a company.
Just not, okay, so I'm not breaking any.
If it's on the MLS, you can advertise it, but if it's
awesome.
not yet, you can't advertise it.
So, like, if it's a withheld, or so like before you could say like.
Do-
yeah, this one
It's
is
coming, it's in the
but
works,
there
yeah.
wasn't a listing Status.
Okay, so
So,
it just needs to be in the MLS.
Yes,
Okay,
mhm,
perfect.
yep,
soon,
and not withheld. Withheld, you can only advertise word of mouth,
Okay,
so you couldn't put that in a newsletter or something. Yeah.
So you're probably gonna just fine.
Yes.
we're good, because
Yeah.
that's, we have a contract with a new construction
Yeah,
company,
yeah.
so we do a lot of
Yeah.
listings
Yeah,
and.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that would be topics too, like, like trends in new construction
Mhm.
or like.
You could go to a model and just like take pictures and
Well,
like
yeah, I've done
write.
video tours
Mhm,
and
yeah,
all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff.
mhm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's everything that we had to go over. It was really
Awesome.
kind of introducing Mailchimp, how we use it, as in like.
Giving ideas,
like,
yeah.
What we do for the content.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. It gave me some really good ideas at least, so.
And obviously, we're always call or email or whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Cool.
Awesome. I just gotta get on Sarah's case about taking more pictures.